당연히 Lama Chöpa, ya, ne, jike, kusong kewi shinyi, kusong tu sumki, yundin jembe tone, ya lama ya, sodip shuya din ma, ne, kisin di gosu bare, den zang del ya, ta kisin nyama del ya, ne, jike, duyu shu ne, shepeke, ne, lama ki yundin jembe tone, lama sodip shuya dang, taba chenpe ki, kewi shinyi ki, yundin keshuya de dang, jembe tone, and the Mala Sotip Shuadi, or Kissin Shusavare, that didn't ma Shuadi, and Jike, Sangatur Tepi, Lamikit, and the Kishu in the Temputone, and the Mala Sotip Shuadi Chagore.
Good evening. So last week we came to a new section where we are called praises and requests, which start with verses where one recalls the varying great qualities of a Lama's body, speech and mind, and having generated the recollection of his great qualities, we then make supplications or requests to him. So last week we looked at the 43rd and 44th verse, which recalls his qualities in relation to the Vinaya, and then secondly, the Mahayana. And now tonight we come to the 45th verse, where we recall his qualities as explained in Secret Mantra.
Labiaki, Lapkin Kinjin, the Korangal, Gang Labi, Letse, Lobsendi, and the Yakochi, Shinwa Jita, and Delia, and Ma Lapsa, Lomatiki, Corona, Yundin, Cabot Papa, Google, Badanga, the Chison, Chitana, Jiki, Labiata, Karin, Lobchon Karjevine. Or Dina, she did that Jivar Watanga Zugi, Mahazugi, Simki. Dunga tamchu nyomo bachase pangchi tingi dewa tobeki tablam mazu sem nyamlenji sem yu gomgi tone nyamlen yuwa taya deya deniki lama dela ya anjiga deniki kishu ya semki nyamlenji ya nyomo bam ma panya tang anijiki di gombiki nyempo tenya tablam diki ba tenya liya an dene nyamnyo de tenpa lama chuk kishu di kogorwa dene za lama liya duksine kishu tam dida tenpe tone ane nga zu dewa chaya de chagorwa.
In general, in life, to develop skill in a particular area, one needs someone to teach, to train one, to guide one. And for someone to be able to teach or train or guide oneself, that person has to have more knowledge than oneself. Otherwise, how can they teach and guide you? And in our case here, we have as a goal to eradicate completely all the afflictions together with the seeds and stains from our continuum, as well as developing all good qualities within ourselves. We have as a goal to achieve something that we have never since beginningless time ever achieved, and therefore it is indispensable that we have a spiritual teacher. And that teacher needs to not only have vastly more knowledge than us, but also experience based on that knowledge. He needs to have great skill or knowledge in the Buddha Dharma and skill in its application. In particular, the application of antidotes to eradicate the afflictions. So this is essential. So to have such a teacher is essential so that we can develop spiritually under his care.
Chi ki ta chi lobsang yuande garachabene genji dende jangguore zade jangbe gal gende le pa denji pa jangnang ha zu jangnang lobsang ji xingguore de jangnang yago janna jige xin ruore inji mi ji dende le ji be dewa chegore se de shu ji zigore dewa chegore se de manji jidan ki jige lobsang gi yenale de sunggo marwa zade jigo nangje le ya shi de lama de le shu dewa chegore zigore shu shi de ya di and the Negoyas Maras Lama de Ma, Paulo Denja, Sosugi, Janshan, the Singiro, and Beggy, Danganzugi, and Samson Naledi, the Neo Sigiro at the Chidan.
To continue with this similarities between the ordinary world as well as our spiritual life, Just like in the ordinary world, we require a teacher who's skilled to train us in something that we hope to become skilled in. Not only does the teacher need to have qualities, the qualities that we long for, but we need to recognize that the teacher has those qualities, and we need to respect the qualities that our teacher has in order to, one, request guidance from him, but most importantly, to be open and receptive to that guidance, especially if it goes against our deep-felt habits. This is the case then in the ordinary world, and it's very much the case in our spiritual development, that we need to have a respect for the qualities of our teacher in order to generate a faith or trust or conviction in him, and thereby be open and receptive to his guidance.
제게 마장도 롭종신의 신고르디나 기인들이 대버시우 제고를 세대 시교 말에 네 시교 말에 디가르스네 소수기 롭종 만주기 지소나랴 소수기 말라비아디 신야기마도 소수기 녀모 빠야기 고 시교 말와 지산디 인자 대버 제고를 세 시교 말와 당한주기 나주는 마시도 라말랴 아니 직도 라미 구순투 유연된 전제배 대버 제고를 라면도 디가르산 라마 델리온데 딘스페 야고레스 라마 야슈지 대바체 라마 야 구십체베나 소수규라 나겔게야다 아니 델리아 젠심게야다 아니 데니기 차강게기 로디 파차상 가고로 와디게 제산 디마야다 아주 차당 차과 차당 소수규인데 차네 라마 양아지 지금으로 당아진 시우 차선 아델다 나게라 체조 능고로 봐 내가 지선나를 통도로 와지 지로마데 연대 야부차네딘 간즈지로 권내데 영의 권내데 쇼야게 냥아요로 초로야 냥아요로 봐 지선 당아주 디나시도 가서 뇽몽 빠야게 탑람 시고인자 아니랴 두스는 소수유인데 직장요도 연대 고로기요도 나게게 냥아요래 아니 나게게는 현리야 차도지에게 냥아요래 아니 진짜 잔리야 디 용고바자 아니 랑기 연된들이야 차제 안 디원게 현리야 아까가대야다 용고 진짜 남말야 대바 제고래 세라미 구순투 연대된 대라 대바 제고를 랍도 안 될이야 안 가소리 나야게야다 전심게야다 차도게야다 용모버리기 기고 말해 진짜 데네 마제바나 소소 연대 가슴질 토보차도 연대 하고 차나 안다 어달라마들레데 갈야 이 콜레데 알라마디 신기미도 네디지세데 라마라 균질레게 냥아요 요로바 진짜 데네 마야게 녀모 마제게 된다래 데네 차사 안 라말야 구소 연대 젬베 대바 제고리 세디 제사 라말야 젬바 제바 이나 다디 녀모 버리 차사지 까르고 그래 디 된다 내가 강한 제의 차상 녀몽베 셈마두 온게 강가 요바사 셈 두예디 장고 고연자 두탑리아 두숭고르다 된다라.
So the preceding segments, I've mentioned the similarities between the worldly life as well as the spiritual world in terms of requiring the need for a qualified teacher as well as to have respect in his qualities. But there is, though, a difference. For training in the worldly fields, worldly endeavors, faith isn't required in a teacher. But if he has merely more knowledge than oneself, that is sufficient for him to be a teacher. But in the religious context, in our spiritual development, faith is essential. So just to say some synonyms that you may be more comfortable with than faith, you can say conviction or trust. So in the context of the Buddha Dharma, faith or trust or conviction is essential. Because if that's lacking, it's very easy that afflictions will arise. And without faith being present, we will struggle to recognize or overcome those afflictions. So when someone is guiding us, teaching us, but if we lack faith in them, pride may well arise within us. And from this pride, thinking that, oh, our qualities are better than his. We understand this better than he does. His way of explaining is no good. From this, competitiveness comes, jealousy may come, attachment to our own exaggerated qualities will come. And here, not only are afflictions arising and not being challenged, but it has the effect that despite a valid teaching being given, our mind is closed. And not only is our mind closed, but our heart is not receptive. And that means, despite being presented with a perfect opportunity to transform ourselves, our closed mind prevents this from happening. We're not hearing, open and receptive to the teaching. We're not hearing the teaching and placing its relevance to ourselves. Rather, pride arises. Attachment to our own exaggerated qualities arise. And we engage in an inner dialogue of competitiveness and looking down on the teacher. So without faith, not only will our mind stay closed, but we will not be able to hear and receive and integrate the teachings. And moreover, if we have some faith, but it's weak, whilst we may hear and receive the teaching, we will struggle thereafter to really apply it to ourselves again and again. We will struggle to apply ourselves sufficiently to overcome deeply ingrained habits, but will rather be much more likely to blame the teacher and the quality of the teaching than striving to transform ourselves. In brief, then, the purpose for having faith in the qualities of the Lama's body, speech, and mind is as an antidote to our own afflictions.
Lama le yundin cher chaya deba maje ba ina lama de yundin chung cha ka ma lama ko ka se yundin ka je na chu deba maje je ane yun ju je be ne yundin de chung cha ska ya ma ba ji ya ji yundin ji yo ba di gang le ji deba je na yundin cher cha so ma lama ko nyam den ji ya gi ma ro na ma ju gi di re na cher cha ska ya ma ro ji na lama le yundin deba je di kyapsan lama le ka ya ma re da ga ro yo se na nga zu le kyapsan lama le deba je na nga zu le Jansim ki mare, Chisa Jansim de Nyomo bare, Naya mare, Nyomo bade Naya. Chisa da Jansen, Naya Maja, Rangi in de la Chana Shalia, and Chick Naya, the Jansim Kin, Shalia, never Kiagi, the Ungorva, Dines, the Nyomo Bamaja, Tundra, Lama la Kuzu Yunti, Deva Cheban, Sosulia, Mazu Nyomo, Bamaja, Pingorva, the inside the Chevore, soon at the Dirida.
If we lack faith or trust or conviction in our teacher, we will not recognize his extraordinary qualities. But if we do generate faith, even when faults appear to our mind, we won't pay attention to them. Rather, we will be aware of our extraordinary good fortune. And therefore, any faults that appear to our mind, we won't pay attention to them. Rather, our mental focus will be on our extraordinary opportunity that we have. And in this way, great benefit comes to us. So not only through faith do afflictions such as pride and competitiveness and jealousy and looking down on others, not only do these not arise, but our mind is open and our heart receptive to transformation.
Kaya ki tunda mayin bayna ane oda chigan zu chisol labra na la mangli go labri odi labkin labshin min kyora di ya wala min se kyora di chi zu kyunje kudu ko kyunje ya yungo ro wada sesa di dineza manzu gi shedi da de teba chegora shedi da manzu gi de dinige samda ya ya pe ta nyodu wa ben 게 랍자데 지기 리제 랍라데 기엔서 차사야 대바제고로 시기오 말와 지다데 당한주 낭비 추기라 지기 랍적인 기엔라 대바제고로 세야디 칼신 시고래 다디 롭중하신데 신내 지기로 코로나 약보지 랍능한주 신두로 된다 디로 방아주 신예들이 아니 코로나 랍야들이 인지미지 빼 약보래 대바제고 김장 가요 김제 민도 선배 삼용구로 봐 제나다 아주 낭비촌에 대바제고로 김제 요래 스티가르스는 수수기라 녀모마게 나게다 차도다 아니 전선 마게 녀모바데 마게 된다라 대바제고로 숨고래 세상디 대바라마 대바제베나 에디 녀모바데 직티기고 마다가서 아주 최념내 제세디 녀모바에게 답람드니 시고로 봐 마도 골롭죠 지부 신바 셰바 잠나 시고 말와 신예게 된다 디자 말와 미유가르스는 녀모바에게 된다 시고로 봐 디네자 고 대바제고로 해서디 다 캬바로 시되네시
Whilst there are many similarities between the need to rely on a qualified teacher in the ordinary world and our spiritual life, there is this difference of the need for faith in our spiritual life. There's no need for faith in someone perhaps at your place of work or before in a place of education who was helping you develop a particular skill. Faith wasn't necessary. One could see, if one did see faults in them in those teachers, that wouldn't have served as a block for them, or serve as an obstacle for them to impart that skill to you, or the knowledge on how to develop that skill to you. Whereas with a spiritual teacher, it is quite different, because the relationship between a spiritual teacher and the student is not a relationship of information being imparted and information being received. That is only part of the relationship. That information that is imparted needs to be received in a way that we are open and receptive to its transformative power, which means our mind, the less afflicted our mind is, the more transformative power those same words will have. If afflictions are rising, such as pride and competitiveness and jealousy and so forth, we will hear the words, we may even learn something new, but through the power of those afflictions, our heart will stay closed and will not open and transform. So therefore, in our spiritual context, having faith or trust or conviction in the teacher is imperative.
Kosum leatam lushin suden chang, yudan gyume nga dan gyu sheshin, di yin chu su che dan che kepe, dorji zimbe zolo sowa de efsayda, nama sanga dorji tepe lami gi yunden jube tonne lama le so dep shue dire.
Now let's turn to the text, verse 45 on page 8. You are wise, patient, honest, without pretense or guile, your 3 doors well subdued. You have both sets of 10 qualities, know mantra and tantra, and are skilled in drawing and explaining. Foremost Vajra holder, I make requests to you. So this is the 45th verse, and it's making supplications by recalling your Lama's qualities as explained in the Vajrayana.
Andelia kosum leerdam sidu chujimgi nyamnen de tingore kosum leerde sidu kosum sidu lunga yi sumgi nyeje dombege ane chujimgi nyamnen de tembare lama kyoranlia chujimgi kosum lunga yi sumgi nyeje dombege chujimgi nyamnen de tembare sachi sungor ya lama yunden di tembege tengor wada.
So in this verse, the English and Tibetan's a little mixed. So it starts with, in the Tibetan, it starts with, your 3 doors are well subdued. The 3 doors of body, speech, and mind of our Lama have been subdued through his efforts that he has made over lifetimes in training in ethics. So it's through the cultivation of ethical restraint that his mind, speech, and physical behavior are all subdued.
just not done on the Dibu Yoya, the Karajin Ligors, and Lunga is new on the Diba Ligor, now you can get shit down Sosugi, Sosolia, Dipa, now when the Shanla, Tusuza, Juja, Shanla Kohata, Kishan, Shanla, Nevada, Rana, Neva, Tinsa, now you can and it Kisha, the Dambas in the park, Gavas, Trim Sumas, or that Dambas, Park Gavas. So that in the Luju Condition and Nebigate Ligore. That in ya and the chick Sembi Kuno, Sambi Tone, and the chick Shala, Nubi, Sambata, Teve, somebody, and additionally, young Nazla, Chinejo, go to all these Sumdra, there's an Ligor. There's a dinner as someone to get Gosum, Luma is Nejo to be Surim Sungure, said Surim Gitinada, on Surim the Kitchen, which were as soon as these cigarettes. Just that, then some Gosum leg dam, said the leg wasn't bad, I was over. The Lama Chöpa Gyaltsen. Lunga use Nejo Dum Surum Sung, Yamnechin, then Yamlan Tarchin, but I wanted to go some Lunga use Nejo Dum Big Surum, Tarchin Big, Surum Yunde, the Tempare, as a lectam, said the Tempare, such. I let me the Dinisha said Yadus Chingore.
It is through the three doorways that we accumulate our non-virtue. For example, through the door or the doorway of speech, we accumulate vast non-virtue through either lying or engaging in divisive speech or harsh speech or idle speech. Similarly, through the doorway of our body, so through physical behavior, non-virtue is accumulated, and of course, through the doorway of our thoughts, our mental process, our afflictions. The mere arisal or dominance of these afflictions lead to the accumulation of non-virtue. So recognizing the situation we find ourselves in, we turn our attention here to our Lama, recognizing that through having perfected ethical restraint, or cultivated ethical restraint to the point of it being perfected, through recalling that, we recognize his great good quality, and we give rise to faith in him for his ethics.
And in my Luchin says to us, Luchin led the colors and that Lama Chöpa, Luchin led Legni Namie Jebi, Sherab Gachimbo, Sherab Chimbo, Legni Namie, Legbada Yabo, Yakoda Dubo, Legbas and the Yabosura, Nebala Dubusio, the Legni Namie Jebi, Sherab, and the Gachimbo, the temperature, said somewhere.
The next term, you are wise. So wise here, we understand in that he is wise in being able to discern between what should be adopted and what should be abandoned. What ways of thinking primarily are to be cultivated and strengthened, in other words, adopted, and which ways of thinking primarily should be abandoned, eradicated. So being skilled in that is what makes him wise.
Sanda Lagi is the Labada, Neba, the Neba Carisne, Deja Shadan Conto, Nyomba, Desola, Di, Namba, Delatine, Dunga Chasan, Dunga, the Kova, Dunga Yonga Chasan, you, da Leda, Nyomba, Desilki, said Tisa, Deso and Nyomba together, Yahweh Madi, Mema so, research. That the Yahoreshas, Dubureshas, Gureshas. Din lo notreshas, din azulo mogoyeresha, dungaji yusu desoresha said. Na deso meba suelia and tablam cartingo huriel, Yamlen carchiorsen, Nimbo cartiorsen, Dine and Jambada, Nijeta, Dame to be sheraptio, Tombangi to be sherap comguriese, Denigi Yawa Namie Cheche, Leva, the Neva Namie Chea, and Denigi Lam Yamlen Chebatina, and the Ding. Koyu dunga thala joje tarpa tamji kibe ko to tugudu sebegi denigi nami sehengi hago kan sherap dela an jeba dus hago number chibe sherap dela an legi number chebas sherap side jiza lochen sade.
Being wise means being skilled in knowing what should be adopted and abandoned, and not just merely intellectually being able to identify or recognize, but having done so. So in terms of then what should be abandoned, this is in particular the afflictions such as the three poisons of attachment, anger and ignorance, having long since recognized that that afflictions such as the three poisons are the cause for all sufferings in samsara. And this hasn't only been known, but it's been recognized, identified, and thereby having given rise to the determination to eradicate these causes, he is wise through knowing what needs to be abandoned. And then secondly, he knows their antidotes, what needs to be cultivated in order to abandon those afflictions. In other words, the ways of thinking, the minds that need to be adopted. These are the antidotes such as love, compassion, the wisdom realizing emptiness. These are what need to be cultivated within oneself in order to eradicate completely the afflictions together with their seeds and imprints, and thereby attain liberation from all sufferings of samsara. That is what he is skilled in.
Nyamnen tempala and deniste tende pento che do deniste bana and gorim matuba dan gorim tu the no none temba in nyambarwa de la dine yago lam nyamne yago le du marwa cheza dineza ni tengi tembe rimba de gorim matuba dan manova changwa chasan ten di tengu do sibeki da dus tengu do sibeki kembe sherap lengi cheba sherap de la ya language bisharase da language bisharase ade sosoge nyamlen chebala nyomoba kyendine dine disapanggudu disumeba pangbalya nyamlen didi chewudu di chewure di chewure se bi rimba shin ya language bisharap shenli nyamlen chen shen dunga se ade digituyala dambo didi niba didi denation kon dunga ya tartu de disen konsola kanga take tsumbi lengi namba cheba chisa lengi namba chebe sharase rangla tebe nyamlengi gargara chewube lengi namye cheba shengi dunga se ade digituyala ya gargara chi chehude lengi namba cheba chisa lengi namba cheba los sherapse chisa diam lo chance de da denige negap shiba ya je ro de ngurwa di member je da ama 결혼게 denige lengi namye jibi sherapti ho nyamlen je nyamlen da dem 요균이 meeting tembu shoje sha asorda lama 결혼을 또 인된 lengi number jibi sherap lope yachembo tembu ting sabo지도 우서 lama 결혼을 연대 되니도 세고다 야래메 연대 쟁거로와
The context of the Buddha Dhamma being wise is not mere knowledge. So just to say as an aside, the word that's often translated as wise is also a word for the word for knowledge. But here, wise or wisdom. So here the word is really appropriate, the word wise as opposed to knowledge, in that it's not just a mere intellectual attainment. It's not that our Lama is skilled in knowing what should be adopted and what should be abandoned, but it's been integrated, and thereby he has experienced a transformed mind based on this knowledge. Through having deeply integrated it, this transformation that he has attained is stable, not temporary, and thereby he is also able to skillfully guide others in the correct and unmistaken sequence that they need to train in. In this way, with his experience that's based on knowledge, he is able to guide others in the correct and unmistaken sequence of trainings that they must engage in order to attain the same a wisdom that he has of adopting and abandoning.
And then that's Söba the Tempas. Chitan Söbi Nyamle, Söba the Temple, Lama Chöpa, Söbi Nyamle, do sure. That's Söba the Langan, say, never like Jimmy, Söba, Tunga, Darling, Söba, and the Chelang sing Söba, and the Söba Sunda, the nigger Söbi Nyamle, that's Söba Mena, and Jig Duji, Dujalia, come down, Batama, and Kangamuli, Jig, the Neza Lamela, Söba Nyamle, Söbi Nyamle, Tarchima, Söbi Nyamle, temperature, said. Chitan. And Denigi, Lamiki, and their Subinyam Tempa, is the Subinyam Tade.
The next quality that's mentioned is recognizing his patience. Patience then is a mind that remains undisturbed in the face of adversity. And this is expressed in 3 different ways. There's the patience of disregarding harm from others, the patience of willingly accepting suffering that arises within oneself, as well as then the patience in relation to engaging in Dharma practice. And here we're taking those 3 divisions of patience and understanding them, particularly in regard to his patience in dealing with students with their wide variety of unique karmic predispositions and their varying inclinations. So helping a wide variety of students does mean that he would experience many events or reactions that could lead to frustration and so forth arising. But due to his inner development, his mind stays calm and undisturbed in the face of anything that would otherwise be adverse.
매와자 되는 라마 결혼게 배지 정보 심전 차상이야 니링 매바 차상 수리나 이제 니링 매바 차상 정보 시우리 샤서
The next quality recognized is that of being honest. Honesty, by having the quality of being honest, means that he is freed of attachment and anger. Freed of this discrimination between beings. His mind is impartial, treating all equally, and his mind isn't stirred by afflictions such as attachment and anger, and thereby he is honest.
This order, 저기 지게 다 녀몽부 원기 안에 다 다시 착배 원기 리게 착배 원기 다 저가서 근데 지금 리러지 되면서 저기 다때 떼바다 닝굴라 차바 닝굴라 차바 닝굴 담 년자 년바 대다 구워 닝굴소라 구십제야 안에 소소래 년바라야 안에 가서 담 년자 제제 닝굴 담 년자라 차베 원기 랑글라 랑기 균 여바이네 균디 배제네 샹야 배제 명원바 제베들 요세고 제가 남을 결혼할 때는 요디 민두세고라 the Kunlong that is order, Ningo, the Tamyanda, Chakbe Wangi, Rangi, Yoba, and she Shengi, Shelly, Mungo, but Beba della, Yose, Yose, don't that did it, Yose.
Now we come to the next 2 terms, without pretense or guile. So just first before I come to Geshe's commentary, these 2 terms in Tibetan can be translated in the same way. So I'm not entirely sure how this is translated, but that's not necessarily mistaken. But they have slight differences between them. So the first word, so I'll give Genla's explanation, and then you decide if it matches with pretense or guile or not. But now to Genla's commentary, the first word in Tibetan, hyoa, we have here as pretense. So this is a mind that arises from, as an afflicted mind that arises from attachment that leads one to hiding one's own faults in order to receive praise from others, to have a good reputation, be thought of well by others, perhaps to receive something from others in addition to praise, maybe some material benefit from others. So in brief, this term that we have as pretense means to hide one's own faults. And this comes from attachment, and it's wanting to have something from others, whether that's material or whether it's praise and respect.
안제 뇨모베 원기 뇨모베 군에 뇨모 원기다 랑게 윤여바나 윤데 아니 지배바도 요새 더 유세디 지바라 군론데라 다 그세 담냐다 닝고라 차베게 데니게 차베 원기 아니 랑기 윤데 매나야 셴리야 윤데 여도도제네 여도도진 또 윤데 여도도제 제디 다 유세오래 유
That first term, pretense, then pretense is from attachment comes the wish to hide our faults. This differs then from guile, which, like pretense, also comes from attachment, but its expression is that we either exaggerate good qualities we have or claim to have good qualities that we do not have. So the first one, pretense, is due to attachment, we hide our faults. Guile, due to attachment, we exaggerate our good qualities or claim to have good qualities that we don't.
제사다 녀모베 왕게 차비 왕게 랑기 윤데 균지게 셴리아 베지 매와 도도 셴고 거던 거로와 매도도 거던 거. 디나시 균기 차비 왕게 랑기 윤데 매나 윤데 유도도 제 셴리아 고거 이 균제 거던 거로와 이내도 꼭 뜻 미르마도 단단 지바 니가 셴고 나야 차대로 당시.
So hopefully we see the difference between the two terms. The way though it's usually used is to deceive others. So usually these two words are listed as one because their meaning is very similar in that they are different expressions of how to deceive others, often leading to thereby take advantage of others. So these are also sometimes translated as to cheat others, to be cunning, but most commonly to deceive.
디니가 셴고가 땅바이베 지바라 고가 땅나네 되스 카가레바나 지디기 연데 매나 여도도지 고가던 거로 지디 연데 균여나 균디 매도도지 베니 고가던 거로 고가 땅땅 카가레 고가 땅 지바르와.
So therefore bear in mind when you hear the term to deceive, then you can understand that to deceive others can come from varying expressions. From a place of attachment, one deceives others by hiding one's faults, which is pretense, or from a place of attachment, one deceives others by exaggerating our good qualities, guile. So in this way, we can see that being deceptive can be expressed in differing ways.
라고 두 직슈베네다 데네 슈베네 슈베지버로 슈당 가가르와 지사 지기 도전 슈지 지제 어다 게 대비하고도 왔은 잡로 박스 슈베네고 고 슈예게 군론데 삼다제 고 지기 담 기신이 보라시 아데 야고도 왔은 슈셔베네 슈버로 고 슈다 데데지 냥 데네지 어당아 라고 노르선서다지 네 마통아 도다 토마스 노르선도다지 지 슈셔베네 군론 슈예게 삼려로 니가게 지금 슈다데 카카샤로와 지금 미지리 슈버 지바 차로 디로시다.
So to deceive someone has the same motivation of attachment, but differing expressions, either hiding our faults or exaggerating our good qualities. So in other ways, we do the same action, but with a different intention. So with a motivation, we can have the motivation to hit someone, but sometimes we do so out of anger, so we hit them. Other times, we do so out of praise. We slap them on the back. So in both cases, we are motivated to do the same thing, raise our hand and bring it into contact with the other person, but the expression of this is quite different. One is one of congratulations, and the other is an expression of anger.
당한 지금 뮤 가게를 유유세대 유유 미디 유유도 유유지기도 세대 찍리 배지 단거 단다라 가서 미디고 고고당도 레고 단다디와데 고고당다디 당한 지 최신 날파 예와 체형도 그러나 여당 규세디 고 카하리마도 양지게 가게 날지도 유유도 라 찍리 배지 단거 찍 배지 단도 가서 미디고 고고당도 레고 단다디와
In the normal colloquial way of speaking Tibetan, these words would be used together and would just mean to deceive. But here in the Dharma presentation, it's presented in more detail, with the first word, yowa, or to pretense, means from attachment, hiding our faults. And the second one, gyu, means from attachment, to exaggerate our good qualities. But they both are different expressions of deceptive behavior.
You said the country, you said the country Lagor Labne, could do that she single mark, Kanaman, you said she do go in, you said the country, you said the country Labna, Kaya Teshika, the Kawachagua. Because you don't, you said some nochua, same thing now, she was. Just a time to dinner, my train number, Jeshi, Sabu, just you said some Denish ladies, just a ditana Yaguama noturious. You said some Denish Tanajil, Gulagore, this some not Tangio di notorious, just a ding the Bango said, just nothing more treasure. Did you don't do the Momatena, someone on the Denish Lagores, Momatena di Panching Marwa, just not di Panyala, that you said the Denish love, some of the Denish corner, the Lures, some of the Denish corner, Gure said, she's not di Mavaso or Bango said, she's almost she bear say which you call Ratchen Tigor.
Whilst it's sufficient as a general social norm to say, don't be deceptive, don't act in a deceptive manner. And even in terms of guidance to children, that is sufficient detail. But in terms of bringing about a radical inner transformation of our way of thinking, we need to investigate our motivation and the resulting way of thinking in finer detail. So therefore, something like a deceptive way of thinking is a little too general. To bring about a deep and radical transformation, we need to look deeper, investigate in a finer way, coming to see that deceptive ways of thinking can be expressed either as hiding our faults or exaggerating good qualities, both of which need to be eradicated.
제가 도시 디네자 안나 소수기 교여바디 현이 둘을 맞대지 배나 요 말이베스 딜리그로다 요세디 말이베스네 제가 요세디레 군노들야 차비군에 나와지고 그래서 차비군에 나와제 안에 소수기 연된 교인디 배바는 요 차기로마도 소수기 교인디 배바 점로 요 차기 말와 현이야 벤 소수기 교인지 요바지 교인디 셰샤바 있나 배지 지소라야 추야당 안에 강한 욕라면 몰래 그저바이나 소소견 오다딩이 디셔반 셴략 직 뇌다 거기서 강한 망고 최살에 삼제 셴략 팬베선비 군내라 소소견 주요변에 직 내가 마셔 배셔바이나 괜히 배바래데 이나 요 말에 그래서 군론들에 차상 군내라 막 그래서 딜 군론 팬베선비 군내라 와 소소견 주요변에 오당이 견 셔바나 다델야 견 셔바나 지소나랴 강알랴다 뇨라 몽불레기 데네기 겐지 용구요바이나 데네 미디견디 소소기 지기요바데 마셔바지 배바이나 내가 어다디시네 배 강한 체설 시한을 뇌와시고 니다 강한데 배 야고요 말에 삼제 시한이야 년 디마레 삼시한에 펜베스 비군이라지 소소기 견디스요베네 견디 배바이나 내가 배바이나 아니디 요차기리베스 디요 말에 요 말에
In going through these two individual terms, for both of them I mentioned, they come from attachment. So this is important to bear in mind, because sometimes, for example, if we look at pretense, it may be more beneficial to hide our faults. It's not that at every occasion we need to pronounce our faults. There may well be occasions where it's more beneficial just to be quiet, to say nothing about a particular fault. And in such an instance, we need to be very aware of our motivation, that it's not we're not keeping our fault hidden due to attachment to reputation, wanting to be praised or liked or to fit in, but rather we have a motivation to be of greater benefit. Because sometimes in society, one needs to act in accordance with certain social norms, and if we have some faults, it may be better not to announce that.
Gabriel anjik machine bane singi yedo chen chen ya jik bebe di kin ji pando chebo ya chebo du tu ya yongro ji zan de ne ge to ne chen le pen be sim bi gu ne la je dan ne gap til ya pando ji ya wo yong yo be na ane sing me ne singi yedo do xie bene pinisu mi mong bo ji ge mi xian da ji ge be gang a je tu ji da je ane ji ge gang a je ge nyang a xue be ne so lo chi mo me ne ko dunne le lo chi mo ye do dang yi che xiu xin yi do do xie je jian an pa song gyup jie je ne se de ga tu yue na ane di ko di de pen de yo wa ko ji san xian le pen be san be jin na xin xian le pen be san bi ge gu ne la xie ne gap de ya yun de me ne yue do do xie be yin na pen do jie chen bu ju yong gu yo be yin na pen be sim ju gu ne la de yun de me ne yue do do jie na di yunde mena yodo to chebare de ina yuchego mare ko 가신 펜베 셈주 군에 아주 판도 여바디 최고래.
And similarly with the second one, that of guile, when one is confident that to benefit others, one perhaps does need to exaggerate a good quality that we have, or even pretend to have one that we don't have. But our motivation is one to benefit others, not one of wanting something from others, such as respect or praise or to fit in. Then it will not be guile. It will not be an afflicted behavior. So, for example, if a person is in danger of being physically assaulted by someone else, so we, who are really not a particularly brave person, we stand before them, looking very strong and powerful, and pretending to be brave and strong, when we really are not. We're perhaps shaking inside. Then we are presenting ourselves as having a good quality that we really don't. We are faking it. We're hoping that we are being convincing, but we are doing so as to benefit both the person that we are hoping to protect from being beaten, as well as benefiting the other person who we're trying to protect them from creating strong non-virtue. So in that case, it wouldn't be an illustration of guile, because our behavior is not motivated by attachment, but a wish to benefit.
보 저기 제마제하게 멤다 충충 라과 키야지 닝주로 저고 슈얼리도 거기네 신유에지 아니 제가 저라스나 루시에 키야지 아니 곧미 자마람 투지다 내가 요르데는자 델야 차사마된 바제 곧 저라는 바 뜻이 통바로 통스제 다스다스제 두스제 샤규 샤이스요네 제가 숨깁치다 제가 오다 콜디스 콜 멤다두다 콜 야네고네 고 멤다 제그레스 비고 촉좀 지네 고 멤다 제그레스 비 제나진데 고 숨깁체기로 와 미직 마도 메나 젤라고 뭐 초야게 닝아 요 미천다게 제가 그 우고 쯤에서 멤다 뉴에제 디네 바 졸라나 루지데 루지네 예도다 뜨스 진 샤빈이시레 제가 가서네 미 초좀 오다 고 직 초좀 제베네 콜 멤다 제그레스 제 제그마르스 디네 제바레스 디로 차고로 와드네.
So for example, if traveling on a train with many people, and perhaps it could be quite aggressive, quite dangerous, depending on who one with. But if a child that you happen to be with has a toy gun and it's in their bag, you could always use this. Maybe just show it slightly, as if to present yourself as being able to defend yourself, when really one doesn't have the courage or the strength to do so.
That in nga dang se da nga se de sanga ki ani le che de ki ani ya ho shin ba so le nga dang se de sanga ki le ga mo sanga ki nyam ne je le ga mo bo le yo ba jing guo de ya tik dem ji je ya an ji ji chopa ja de chopa de le mo bo yo ba ji sa sanga ki le ki ji ke ani ya ho shin ba 안 신바 주고 그래 신비 연대 라마 결혼을 두고 해야지 뒤순 거다 나 당세야 돼 나 사디
Then the next word in the Tibetan is that of mantra. So we have in our third line, you have both sets of 10 qualities, no mantra and tantra. So there the word mantra means that our teacher knows the varying activities of secret mantra very well, such as drawing of mandalas, giving of initiations, and so forth. No mantra and tantra. And in tantra we can understand the words of the tantra. Our Lama knows very well, and not just the mere words, but their meaning and their many layers of meaning. These are well known.
Dini Jusung said, Dini Ju said, the Chi Dini Juda Nangi Dini Ju said, that's on Lameki and the ordination currently Dini Jusung said, Ni Sung la Ni Lagora, the Jujiba Ni said, Donada Nishidama Charugura, just a Dini Jusungu and the Lama Kuralia and the Chi Dini Juda, Nangi Dini Ju said, or Di and the Lama Kural Dinish do said, Alami and the Ditingura.
The two, you have both sets of 10 qualities. The two sets of 10 qualities refer to, firstly, an inner set of 10 qualities and an outer set of 10 qualities. And our Lama then has both of those sets.
And Yamne Shingpa Yunde in Lamal do sets to Sungore. Dia da tick dia da dia mangwe tick. Tick said it
and are skilled in drawing and explaining. Drawing then refers to drawing mandalas and as well as the varying measurements, so that the mandalas, for example, are drawn precisely.
Che Keba said, Che Keba la de Lavia la Keba sura. The Karalavia la Keba, the Genial Shade Gereda, Bene Tsudumi Yamle down, and the Lagian Namichibe, Sheragi Yamle, and the Jige Sangaki, Nada said, Nagi, and the Le together, Yuji Sidun, Sheda, and the Deni Jingogi, Diada, Tikitma, Lomalma, Loma, and the Kasore. New Ruas, Lama Chelo, near the Indian, Lama Lomadile, she Kay, Shena Divda, Madur, Shena Diegi, the Nigi Lomadilia, near the Rumwig, the Solia, Shelia, the Niki Shetan, Manoa, Machuba, the Chianaba, she Keba Lamakuna to do sin, soon Keba Yunde, Keba, the Keba Yunde, do so this or She Kebas.
And the term explaining then refers to not merely having great knowledge in all that has been presented before, but skilled in being able to explain and guide one's students in these qualities. qualities such as the first one that was mentioned, that of ethical restraint. Your 3 doors are well subdued. So skilled in guiding students how to cultivate ethics and thereby restrain their way of thinking and thereby their physical and verbal behavior, as well as skilled in mantra and the tantras and the various activities of mantra, such as drawing of mandalas and so forth. So here explaining refers to all of these good qualities previously, that our Lama is not just knowledgeable in these, but is skilled in guiding his students in an unmistaken manner.
Dorje Zimbi Zola Soa Devs, Dorje Zimba, Lama Dorje Zimba, Lama Kiron, Dorje Zimba Res, Lama Kiron, Dorje Zimba Res. The Dorje Zimba said, Dorje said, Dorje said, the career, Zimba said the career, Lada, Dorje said, one, Lama Kiron, Dorje Zimba Res, Chisan Dorje Shasset, and Dusungor, Delian, Dus Lama Kiron, Dorje Zimba Res, as Dorje Zimba said, nearly left.
And then the final line, foremost Vajra holder, I make request to you.
That Dorje Zimba said, Dorje said, the Karl Kuhuresan, that Jinang and the Muni, Divudan Dorje said, Dorje di Kartungo Sene, and tap Tungores, Divuti Tomba Tungores, as Sungua. It's not that Dorje tap said, that it tap said in Anzugius, San and in Anzuki, she had that it comes to Dorjes tap the Karagos in Devachimbe Yishi. Devachimbe Yishi de la, because the Hangi Ganzu Gom Yamlen Jene, Gom Jene, and same Trasho digi, same Tramo digi, Devachimboski, Devachimbo, di Dorjes or Devachimbe Yishi Dorje. Di Dongi Topigi, digi Devachimbe Yishi, Dombani Dodu, and Tapshi Sungre Sach, or Tapshi Sungre said. Because they don't hear me, or Devada, Tomba, Devada, Deva did Tomba to be Shini, or Yermeba, Sosor Meba, Koronchik, Deva Chimbo, Corore, don't you to be sheer Corores. Tis a Lama Corona, then there's just the Yamlenti, Lama Coron Yamlen, the Nigi Yamlen, Nanguba, the Doji Zimbas, the Yamlen Nangores, Yamlen did at Temba, yes. Dorje Zimba said, Yamlin Jeba. Lama Korong Gula Dinigi, they don't hear me, Yishi, the Yuba, Yamlin Jiganza, Dorje Zimbas.
The meaning then of this term Vajra holder. So a Vajra, in terms when one engages in Heis Yoga Tantric practice, one will utilize the Dorje and the bell, the Vajra and the bell. The Vajra represents method, the bell represents wisdom. So, in secret mantra, the meaning of the method side of practices is the exalted wisdom of great bliss. So just to say from my side quickly, I think last week I said the exalted wisdom of great bliss and emptiness. That was, if I said that was too much. It's just the exalted wisdom of great bliss that is the method side in secret mantra, which is symbolized by the Vajra. And that is where the very subtle mind realizes, where great bliss, arises in the very subtle mind. And that very subtle mind then, in which great bliss has arisen, when that is used to realize emptiness, then one has the union of method and wisdom. And these two are indivisible in that they are in one mind. So within the practice of secret mantra, when method and wisdom are realized, there's a union of method and wisdom, that is where the exalted wisdom of great bliss realizes emptiness directly. Then one has the union of method and wisdom. And that is what is symbolized, or that is the meaning of being a Vajra holder.
지상한주디 계승님과 라마 쳬바다 원데 대도 예말하라 예마 군자춘 주비에서데 나도 초신 사이트데 대도 예메스 시소하데 제가 대화지 뒤동방에 또베 지시게 디다네 아니 나도 초신 고미야시르와 제가 대도 예메스데 가지 대동 예매기 대화당 동방이 또 비게 로지기 대화당 동방이 또 로지 뭐 예매기 로 냠는 제겐데 냠는 제겐들이 세도나라 대동 예매기 로 냠는 제겐들이 쓰고 송고 도시 진바세야 돼 말 예만 고도는 대동 예매 인내라면 저 고도 기시거든 대동 예매 민의经过 세트비도 하고 소신 세트비 갈라 대동 예매 라라냐 뭐 군사 시즌 투비 위세지 여러와 어디 제자디 대동 예매서 도시 진바세야 디 대동 예매게 냠는 책에 세수 디다
Then this term Vajra holder, we can understand then the expression hold or holder. This would refer to him being a practitioner of what? The exalted wisdom of bliss and emptiness. So this is something that was referred to earlier in the 9th verse, where one starts with the generation of the merit field. So we, in the Tibetan, is the very first word, and in the English it's in the first line of the 9th verse. In the vast space of indivisible bliss and void. So there we have it. Probably here it's also verse 9. In the vast space of indivisible bliss and void. So there, the indivisible bliss and void, or bliss and emptiness, it refers to the indivisible union of bliss and wisdom. And that there is what our Lama is referred to here as Vajra holder. Vajra holder then meaning someone, a practitioner who has generated the indivisible bliss and emptiness.
Lama Chöpa said that and Geshe Rinpoche Dikilia, Domashe Sanye Chumde, Dikilia, and Yawatori Chang said that doing also Yerme. Chisnada, Dorje Zimbas, Dorje Zimba, Zore, said the Lama Curon, that Lama Idam Sanye, some more Yerme Bigita, Tardan, that Lama Sina Cura, Zore, said Sanye, said Tarchimba, said they don't Yerme, Yamlen chicken, Tarchimba, Lama Cura, Tarchimba, so that. Dambo Geshe Rinpoche said that Geshe Rinpoche Ula Ningala Tumba Shakya Tuba said that Tumba Shakya Tubu Ningartilla and then Yawadorji Chang said that and di Chesna Lama Yinam Science Mo Yermeba, the Goro, Jesa Lama Curon, Dorjism Zor said that Mo Yerme that Zor Tarshiba Reshas, Curon said Dustin, Amiyunde, Dustin Gorwa.
And then the word we have here, the first word, that of foremost. So this particular word is more commonly translated as main or primary. And here actually, though, the meaning is a bit different. The meaning is perfected. Because we are now referring back to our Lama, who we visualized in front of us as Lama Tsongkhapa with Buddha Shakyamuni at his heart, and at his heart is stacked Dorje Chang. And in this way, we have our Lama, Yidam, and Buddha stacked together and seeing them as indivisible of one essence, just like the wisdom that is the union of bliss and emptiness. So this is what perfected refers to, or foremost, these perfected beings with perfected good qualities who are indivisible in nature.
Nandelia solva tips, solvasane ya shuba dirwa. Da garu shuba resane, the Yunde de Giri, Lama Curon ya, Gosumgi, and Nyaba Dembiki, Tsutim Yunden, Tarchimpachi dos. And the legging in the Michibe, let the shed up, look catchimbo, shed up catchimbo, Lama Curon Yunden dos. That's Suba, Subinyam, Lama Subinyam, Tarchimba, Lama Curon do. Da Jambo Resha, you are the Yugu Medican, Yugu Meba Reshas. Lama Yunden Dinisha, that's Sangaki, and the legi, Javati, Tarchimba, Yahoshimba, Yunden Dinisha. And the Yugi, Sida, Dwendige, Chazana, Yahoshimbi, the name Yundereshas. That Lama Curon, Chi Dinich, and Nangi Dinich, Yundea, Tempareshas. That Lama Curon, like 经过之后了说别个的那原点点把来下子，就像的那个原点的个嘛罗马嘛这个女的容易罗马嘛切吧了切吧开吧，别嘛是开别原点点把来下子，但那么就让我呢他呢dorje simba de don yeme nyamlen jiken tar chimba sangi nama kyoran reshas kyoran la yenden dina ji yuba ya yenden dini du sedi ya sowa dini du sedi sowa ya sowa je ta dep sedu lama kyoran gi gyule yenden dina yuba na ji yenden de ya de za wo ji ngi gyule ya kewa kyopo nyurdu kewa ga lama chökyi ne tapshi nangro che sa chi sungor yugor da sowa dep sedu na ni wo dire da.
And the verse ends with, I make requests to you. So firstly, as we are making these, about to make this request, we are doing so in dependence on the basis of faith that we have generated through recalling our Lama's qualities as presented in the context of the Vajrayana. So his qualities of great wisdom, his 3 doors which are well subdued through perfected ethical restraint, his qualities of patience, of being honest and without pretense or guile, his qualities of knowing mantra, so the various activities or rituals of secret mantra, as well as tantra, meaning that he knows the tantras as well as their many layers of meaning. And he has both sets of inner and outer qualities, and is skilled in drawing, such as mandalas, as well as explaining all of these great skills and qualities and how students can develop them themselves. So in this way, we've recalled all his great qualities, and these culminate in recognizing that he's the foremost Vajra holder. In other words, he is a practitioner who has perfected the union of exalted wisdom of bliss, or great bliss and emptiness. So with faith, the strength of faith that has arisen through recognizing all these good qualities within our Lama, we now make requests to him. And the requests are, please inspire me, or bless or inspire me to become just like you, or bless or inspire me to develop these self-same qualities that you have, that I develop them within me as quickly as possible. And this then is how the verse concludes. If we first go through a progression, so it's the same as the previous verses, previous 2 verses. You go through a progression of recalling his extraordinary qualities, and in dependence on the powerful faith that thereby arises, one makes requests that inspire or bless me to generate those self-same qualities within my own continuum as quickly as possible.
And in my Jama and my Karashuaresne, that the she that Bardo said, Kusung to Yelame, Indian Jimmy Tone Lamalate, Devache Sodif Chevalier. That Jama Shuadi, Lamu, and the Indian Temba, Lama de Ralia, getting Chimbo, Lame, getting Chisu Temba, getting Chimbu, Lame, getting Chisu Tembu Tone, Lama Sodif Shuada.
Within the section of praises and requests, we've now finished the first subsection, which is the recalling our teacher's good qualities. And that's expressed in verses 43, 44, and 45. And you'll know from the Lamrim teachings in how to rely on one's teacher, you recall his good qualities as well as recalling the tremendous kindness that he has shown to oneself. And then next week, we'll start with the second section of recalling the kindness that he has shown to ourselves, which will start at verse 46.
두스 소득 제비기 제보 가리 연구를 랍나 다다가 주기 응어서 냠는 제셔베네 냠는 제를 듬바다 donye도 숙처지고래 듬바다 donye 숙처 개바 있나 안주 될야 롭션 냠진 롭션을 배진 제고라 배진 제와나 아주기 다 연된데 공부도 좋아해 바디 시 뭐와 아니 디마세 체될 마세 몽아주 라미게 연된체 라미게 연된데 될라 대바제 두치 소다 슈비게 제부 몽바이네야 아주랴 지게 가와 개바 있네야 다 라메티기 요새기 최 송세기 다 라메테다 태야다 라메티즈는 최쉬야다 직최 냠는제기 고합라야 아니디 지게 냠는제 고합라야디 디용고래 되네서 체 대다 지만 니가이 두치네 삼다데 당아제 두 삼다네다 되네셔되네 홉트가 삼다네 요에 개민도 안 되지다 되네 삼다다가 처음이겨 삼사를 전세로와 이내 당한 두 삼들이 먼저 냠는 제바 있나 제데 세델에 있나 소수기 된바 dünyel야 대대이 팅팅이 아주게 안최 냠는 제야래야 아니 지기야게 줘야 몽바께와 치마남 소이네 당아저 상기고 봐 마도 이 바도리 되네 영화 쇼스 베기 되네 몰람 잡요도 아니 게디이네 아니 아주 직최 메서 룸바 직게베 있네야 아니 그 디기 슈긴기 몰람다 기회 자외 더블에 최여사 기회 신인지를 사지들 레데 기회 신인 체제 안지세네 최슈야 고업 지야다 냠네 지야고 브라고 제사 디네자 디네 삼다이딩 안저기 돈다 메베다 제부 메바 말에 제부다 돈다 마세게 갸침보 슈슈 바 차고래
As we near the end of our time together tonight, I just want to re-emphasize the importance of training in this way. It's important that you understand why you encourage to generate a visualization, or even if that's not clear, to really feel the presence of one's lamas and thereby recall his good qualities and then make supplications as have been expressed in these 3 verses. So the purpose of training in this way is to generate that awareness, or that awareness of the presence of our Lama wherever we happen to be. And based on that, as well as the recalling of his many good qualities, strong yearning will arise within us to strive in the Buddha Dharma, to express that slightly differently, through generating faith in our teacher, through recognizing his incredible good qualities. A strong yearning will arise within us to take all the guidance and care, all these teachings that we've received, and put them into practice, to apply them to ourselves, both in meditation and in our daily life. So in brief, the purpose of going through this process is to give us a great strength of mind, a courageous mind that is required so as to come our deep-seated habits, and these habits which are slowing our spiritual development. So to give us the strength of mind to be able to weaken and eventually eradicate harmful minds, we take inspiration and strength from the kindness and the qualities of our Lama. And through generating this faith in him, we will also make heartfelt prayers, not a mere expression of words, but heartfelt prayers, that throughout this life, may our mind always be perfectly in accordance with his teachings, and we strive ever more with a joyous attitude to ensure they are in harmony with his teachings. And when this life ends and our next life comes, that we continue to take rebirth where he is. Meet him at a young age, recognize him as the extraordinary being he is, and spend our lives in his presence, under his care, wanting, requesting teachings and applying ourselves to learning them and integrating them within ourselves, and always acting in accordance with them. Then these aspirations These prayers are heartfelt due to the reflections that we've been engaging in. In this way, we create the causes that in future lives we will once again meet, we'll take rebirth where our lamas are, meet them, recognize them as the extraordinary beings they are, and spend our lives receiving their teachings and living our lives in accordance with their teachings. So that is the result that comes from training in the way that's presented here.
Gyudan Kin Mebal Chuma, Gyudan Kin Chilatine, Ligor, Chizan Gyudan Kin, the Kansas Ligor, do Shimchu, the Tanzu, Kiawangamagi, Tinigi, Molam Debigi, Kawa Sabigi, Ndigi, Devotende, in Uruwas.
What's important to recognize within ourselves, whatever strength of aspiration and application we have, has come about in dependence on causes we created in past lives. Whatever lack of aspiration and striving we have to transform ourselves, this too has come about in dependence on causes.
member chene ne la ja yawo so ya yoru wa dong la ga yawo yore an ji yoru de ine ji la ga cha yu che korong ge jikma ji ge chue nyam len je du traba je chue che de ku yu dan kin je le den le go wa ji di yu de kin nyama ge ji ge molam ja ba dang ge we ji su molam je be ge sa che bi ge ji nu ba le de ne du che ne den den yu ro as ni sam le di sam du de sam ya le ji sa ji de ne ge ya de and good laje yagoya that in ji legale jmu saje ji yoruba da one ine de chasadi yongadi gyudan genjele de yongoro ba de jisa gyudan genji gewang amagi gombigi bacha da mollamda ne ge sunam taba dele de peche 당은 저기 얘기해서래 안 되지 멤버가 아주래 차상 안 되지 차상 되는 지로 하다면 아주 최 냥 시 진행 해야 돼 차상 대신에 셰바나지.
I must admit, I don't know the individual backgrounds of almost anyone here, but the one person whose background I know, and I'll use as an illustration, is that of Gyatso. But I'll use him as the illustration, but it applies equally to everyone here. So Gyatso, when he was younger, he saw the great benefits that would come through training in medicine and serving the community as a doctor. And that seeing those benefits would have come about in dependence on causes, and then he expressed those causes through going through his education, and then was employed as a doctor. But other causes that he had created in previous lives, they thereafter ripened. And while still recognizing the great benefits of being a doctor and practicing as a doctor, he saw that those benefits were fleeting. They would not lead to lasting happiness. The material wealth that doctors have, their status in society, this is fleeting. He recognized that, and he turned his life in a new direction. And why was he able to do that? Because of causes that he created in the past life. And those causes were of sufficient strength that he could bring about a radical change in his life. So this is Gyatso's story. It's well known to all of you, but each of you will have your same individual story that reflect on, because it shows the importance of creating causes so that our future lives are even better than this one. And hopefully it's really clear why we need to engage in these practices on how, in terms of relating to our teacher, visualizing, generating a faith, and making requests. So it's my hope that you include this too in your daily practice. And then we'll conclude here tonight and then continue next week. So thank you very much.
Yeah.
But if you have questions, feel free to ask. If you need to go, feel free to go. Cameron?
Is it correct that we should have loving thoughts for Vladimir Putin? If so, given all the people he has killed, I find it difficult to do this.
Is it correct that we should have loving thoughts for Vladimir Putin? And if so, I find this difficult to do because of all the people he's killing.
Disa dang ju gi chö ne she ba yin na ko mi hong sa mong bu sö wa za mi sö ba ma se mi gi cha la da de ne ma che ne ko ron chi ke cha la to ra da ane di ma se zem li yong le ya ka mong bu che ro da si da di gon za ko ron ya an ju gi chö sam da ne ko long long an be gi chi chen ne ne bi gi che we sam be din je ba za ko di ba chim bu sai go ro ba da ne de ne za dang an ju gi da chi ge sam ba de ne gi 진용모 베리티 마케나 게들이야도 다디네 강아스 다디네 갑라 다디네 아주 동거 강아 빽빡도 매 버콜이야 셈비 강아 빽 강아 심부 슈슈여 들어봐다네 안디 마제 몽바나 강아 태로다 되네 인자 땅아 주기 강아 태바다 아주 추셨습니다 강아 태스 셈제 탐지 동안에 다나 삼바도 셈제 탐지 디게데 데나 셈비 삼나 장고바에서 콜에 니지 오거랑 아주 니지게네 닝지게 오르와다 이내 닝지 기구여서야 돼 결혼하지 해야 돼 딕시아서야 돼 디기시 잡교 집이기시 말해 잡교 코로 결혼에 마 잡데 딕시아서 배가 저기 잡교 집이게 기시 말해 닝지게 돼 코로나 다디나 강아 멍보여래 멍보이네 콜 강아래 닝지에서 배게 닝지게 마도 데 코에도 마 잡이 미스여 디바레스 제수 이란 집이기시 말해 당 닝지게 돼 닝지게 오고래 제가 닝지게네 다고 삼바 주었나야다 디 탑람딩 안 주게 이게 주나 제고 거때 양저 제제 탑시 지그라야 가고로와 제산디네 자 닝제데 게고로와 때문에 콜레 니지게 오래 안데 미시겐디게 나 게오래 안데 데디 유크레인 bombardelé 콜레 나 강아 막 여러와 동안에 강아요 다디 지키르게 합다 강아 막버디 미망볼라 강아 쳐도도가 강아 안데 그런 게 지기 게합진야를 콜 다디나 강아 여러 콜레디 니지게 와가 차상이야 니지 공부해야 돼 자고다 니지 공제 안에 거기 저기 니지 공 몰람 잡 안데레 뉴르도 안에 그 지게 시점 영어 쇼스비 지금 마디게 바시제 안 펜진이 부팅 거 삼만나로야 잠지게 삼들이 깨워 쇼스비 몰람 자야 되다가 세외 삼바 도르체 잼비 삼삼을 깨워 쇼스비 몰람 자야 돼.
Yeah, it's a good question, and it's important to take what we observe and apply our Dharma understanding to this. So we often express the words, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes, may all sentient beings experience happiness and its causes. And Putin, and this is an expression that we utilize to generate love and compassion. And Putin is included within the expanse of all sentient beings. So when we express this aspiration, may all sentient beings be free from suffering and experience lasting, stable happiness, he is included within that. And the way that he is included within that is we recognize that when a person engages in non-virtuous behavior, they are motivated by afflictions. When afflictions merely arise, let alone when they dominate so that they are expressed physically or verbally, that person is suffering. So right now, even before any orders were given, he is a suffering sentient being with a mind tormented by afflictions. So he would have had all his thoughts and his plans and his anguish, suffering sentient being. And right now, as he observes the outcomes of his orders, he remains a suffering sentient being. Moreover, when we think about the karmic results that he is creating, we can't even imagine the suffering that is storing up for his future. And that should serve for compassion to arise for him. So here what's important is nowhere in what has just been said am I condoning such behavior. Nowhere is this being condoned. But rather, that for ourselves as spiritual practitioners, we should recognize the causes of his behavior. And that will lead us to recognize that he's suffering right now, and he will suffer ever more in the future. And we need to, especially when we come to recognize the suffering that will come in the future, to not do so with a taint of vindictiveness or vengeance or just deserts, but with compassion, that a mother sentient being is going to suffer even more. And of course in this, we need to expand this understanding to all who are now involved with this. All these people who are suffering because of the actions that he has instigated and the causes that they are creating that will lead to their own suffering in the future. So here we think about civilians who are suffering on both sides and soldiers on both sides who are suffering. Because these are beings for whom afflictions have arisen and are dominating, and they are suffering, and they are all creating negative karma in this way, of varying degrees, but nevertheless causes for suffering. So we recognize this, and in this way compassion arises within us for all of them. And this then we can express through a genuine prayers for peace, and not peace that is a mere a cessation of hostility, but the peace that is a cessation of afflictions. That is lasting, stable peace.
콜리아 제외 닌제 선비 토네 뇌베 선비 토네 많이 봐지 닌제 선비 토네 야 결혼게 디체베 되게 민도 세야지 야 지치소자야 당 지간에스 톨이야 지그 지코로 코론기 마디 마시에게 돈달에 코론이야 탑시가래 제나 베제다나 내가 저 닌제 원을 베지다 야 지gle 콜베 독자르샤 섬 코 마가와지 야 코론을 땅아 히부테에게 돈달이야 섬나지 콜지야 직제베네 야 디야 되지고마 당아 저 가서 다 코론이야 닌제 섬다 닌제 원게 아니 코론기 지게 봐 주어줘야겠지 마디 시에게 탑람을이야 아니 코론이야 아니 지소자야 토네 같이 균주에지나 균지 되게 민도세 세셰스 균제시나 살집죠 결혼 디지네 되게 민도 디지나 샤나 차상 강아지 결혼 노트 디지기도 세베게 살체제디 계시 못 차고래 야디니디 닌제옹에 제바다 닌제 고미야다 디디 곰고야다 디세시제다 디지마도 닌제 곰고에서 그 가르치나 닌제 섬대잖아 디디고 닌제 작다 차고 말해 닌제 왕기 코디 탑람들자 타야게 된다래야 먼저 배제 가르치바 있네 제해나 제고고다.
As spiritual practitioners, it's important that we take what we observe as causes to generate virtuous qualities within our minds. And especially in a situation like this, where we're recognizing the arisal of afflictions ourselves, within ourselves, we need to apply antidotes to that and think about it more skillfully so as to generate compassion. May beings stop creating the causes for further pain and misery. May beings stop engaging in behavior that they think will bring happiness but only brings ever more suffering, and generate genuine compassion for the ignorance of beings that leads them to bring such harm to others and themselves. And recognizing, moreover, recognizing that the core of the faults that the core behind this harmful behavior is the afflictions that abide within us, and that these have to be eradicated. In this way, we generate compassion and a strength of mind. But now I want to add that we should not then say, I'm a good Buddhist, I've now done my bit, I've made a prayer for world peace. That's not enough. What has arisen within us on the place of meditation, we need to bring into our daily life. And we need to bring that compassion that has been generated within us into our daily life and our interactions with others. And then if it's specifically about the war in Ukraine, whatever we can do, probably something via the internet, whether it's fundraising, whether it's doing something else, this we should do. We should express the virtuous minds we have generated in meditation in our daily life, with those that we come into contact with, have a compassionate and a loving attitude, and in this particular case, where we can get involved in campaigning or whatever it may be over the internet, this we should do. But we engage with a mind free of afflictions, dominated by love, compassion, and wisdom.
I don't know.
Okay. Thank you.